For nearly 3 decades, it was the most visible sign of the bitter division between East and West. 3 decades until the wall fell on November the 9th, 1989. 2 men were at the heart of that moment. Soviet Premier Mikhail Gorbachev and his US counterpart, George Bush. As the 20th anniversary approaches, I met both men in Berlin. So, in general, would you say that you were glad or sad that the wall came down?
Well, I think I took it as something that happened, that inevitably had to happen, and I saw that the time for that had come.
Why did it fall apart so quickly?
Well, once the East Germans saw that they could breach the wall without getting clobbered by the Stasi, it just flowed over. The taste of freedom was so strong, David, that they get across the wall and then just kept going. It was amazing.
George Bush had, in fact, been in office for only 10 months. The fall of the wall began an unraveling of Soviet states in Eastern Europe, leading to the eventual breakup of the Soviet Union itself. That was probably the most historic moment of your presidency? November the 9th? Or?
I think in terms of history, the coming down of the wall and the unification of Germany will be the most historic thing that happened on my watch.
The rapidly changing events in Berlin tested the unusually strong relationship between Bush and Gorbachev. The US president says he resisted calls at home to celebrate.
Gorbachev has subsequently thanked me for not doing that, saying he didn't know how his own military was going to react. And so I use the word prudent a lot. Well, it was prudent not to be out there grandstanding.
The former Soviet leader says that other leaders were involved too.
Дэвид, еще одно добавление. У нас ведь сколько споров уже в это время шло.
And let me add also that there was, of course, a big debate. The debate about what to do, what our position should be in the Soviet Union toward this. But also, of course, among the European leaders, there was also a debate, also a discussion. Mrs. Thatcher, she rejected the idea of German unification. She thought that that would be bad for all. So those doubts were real.
George Bush says that with the end of the Cold War, the world is a safer place. The threat of nuclear war greatly diminished. That's a key part of his legacy as president. But in a reflective moment, Bush says that he feels that the media was less than kind to his son while he was in office.
I ached, hurt with the criticism he got, much of which I thought was unfair, some of which was fair, but much of which unfair. But it hurts when you see your own flesh and blood in the crossfire.
Mikhail Gorbachev will be remembered as one of the pivotal figures of the 20th century. Though even now, it's not something he dwells on.
I've always thought that history was a very fickle lady.
No, history will be faithful in your case.
And you can watch more of our coverage of the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall and those interviews on Frost Over the World. That's right here on Al Jazeera on Friday at 1900 GMT. That's 2 p.m. Eastern Time here in Washington.